Right, the other day I needed to do a quick video in my workshop using my phone, and I needed to use a tripod. I had several of these tripod mounts which I've bought online, and they seem to be quite useless really. They actually hold the phone on the sides here, and they're very flimsy. The phones tend to flip out of these, so you can actually break your phone. And I went online to have a look if there was anything better than this, and I couldn't find anything at all. So what I did, I decided to make up an Armoured case phone tripod mount, and that's because my phone has an Armoured casing which I've fitted. That's another reason why these are useless, because they don't fit in to these Chinese ones because of the Armoured casing, and you'd have to take that one off. So what I decided to do is to make up a nice quality aluminium one. So this is what it looks like close up. It has an ordinary quarter UNC tripod mount thread in the underside there. On the other side it's like that, and they're dead easy to make up. Plus, if you have the Armoured case fitted like I have, the tripod mount doesn't come into contact anywhere with the actual phone, and therefore it cannot damage it in any way. In fact, it cannot even damage the Armoured casing. And that's because the actual clamp, which is brass and rubber, and on the face here, which touches the face of the Armoured casing, there's some gasket seal. When you put it into the tripod mount like that, you do up the thumb screws at the back there very lightly, and the phone is absolutely solid in there and cannot fall out. And this is the first one I've made. I've since perfected it and made another one, and I've put the tripod mount in either end here so that it can be used that way up as well, with the phone sticking out the side. So in all it has 3 tripod mounting points, one on the underside and one on each end. And I'll show you the inside of the clamp here. It's like that with the brass and rubber clamp part, and I showed in another video how to make these thumb screws up. And like I said, they're dead easy to make up, and you can get all the parts on eBay to make them. You need some 1 inch times ½ inch flat aluminium bar, some U-section aluminium bar which is 25mm by 25mm and looks like that. That's very low cost to buy, so you could buy it in length and make a few up if you want to. You need some flat rubber. It's about 1mm thick, and that's a gasket rubber, and some of this like orange gasket seal. And I bought both those gasket seals, the rubber one and this orange one, as part of a pack of different gaskets on eBay. And for the brass clamp part, I used a piece of brass bar. It's 25mm by 3mm thick. Plus you need 2 stainless steel screws with 2 nuts on each. Plus just 2 countersunk screws to actually hold the 2 parts together. And the only machining I had to do on this was to actually cut out this part here with an end mill on the Chinese mini lathe. So firstly I cut off both pieces of bar to length, or a bit plus, maybe 2mm longer than I needed. And that's because the hacksaw tends to wander a bit in this type of material. And then I put both parts together in a vise and used my bench drill to drill down through for the tapped holes in the underside here and the clearance holes at the top here. And then I screwed both parts together like that, and then I put it on the disc sander to square up both ends. I also drilled and tapped for the 1/4 UNC on the underside here. Next I drilled and tapped these holes here for the thumb screws with a 6mm thread, and the clearance hole for the 4mm screws that go through the corner here. I then put the brass jaw in there with the rubber face on it, which was glued on with the contact adhesive, and temporarily put these 6mm Allen bolts in and tighten those up to hold the jaw. And then I drilled through again so that the holes would be in exactly the right positions on the jaw. And then I took that out and made the clearance holes on the jaw a bit bigger. I think I used 5mm drill for that one, so it's a mil clearance. So when I opened up those holes, I put a piece of flat wood this side and held it in a vise, just an ordinary bench vise, and I drilled through with a cordless drill into the wood, and therefore it didn't push the rubber off the face of the brass. I then took the assembly apart and marked it up and cut out this section on the lathe with the end mill, and this is where the screen of the phone goes so that you can see the whole of the screen. So I'll just show you a few video clips of the machining of this part on the lathe. So when the machining's done and it's all deburred, I put the gasket seal into the holder and use the 2 Allen screws and the clamp and tighten that up, and then I use a fine pen to draw around the profile and then cut the gasket out. So it comes out like that and then like that, but without the holes. And then I put the gasket back into the tripod mount and line it up nice and square, and then I put a piece of wood behind on this side here and drill through with the clearance holes to get the holes in the right position on the gasket. And I was going to have gasket without holes and just glue it into the assembly, but I want to be able to change this in future if it gets dirty or whatever. You can clean the rubber face of the jaws easily, but you can't clean this type of gasket seal. So when the assembly is finally put together, this one's held in place with the screws through those holes rather than glue. So that's the tripod mount finished and assembled, and you'll see that those screws just pushed straight through earlier on the side here, the 4mm stainless steel screws. So I've put a supportive nut on the inside here which supports the aluminium, but it also holds the gasket in place. And I'm really pleased with it. It's an excellent piece of kit and very useful. And now I don't have any fear of it actually falling out of the tripod mount.